There's an invisible hand that extends itself to you always. It's the hand of openness. This openness is the ultimate fulfillment, the final resolution. The end of suffering. The end of suffering is what we seek, whether we seek it from the world of form, from the outer world, or from the inner world of formlessness. What we're really seeking is openness. Openness is the end of suffering. This openness is always here, disguised in every experience. It's disguised in the experience of getting what you want and in the experience of not getting what you want. In the experience of what you want, a goal that is achieved, a dream, a hope that manifests, a relationship. You find your lover, you find your partner, the promise of a job or a project or a qualification or the birth of a child, whatever it may be, that which you want. When it promises the end of suffering, there is a subtle and sometimes not so subtle grip on that. The grip of wanting to hold on to it. The grip of I made it, I got it, and I don't want to lose it. And so we start to wrap ourselves around the object of promised fulfillment. And in that, we miss the invitation of openness. When we don't get what we want, then it's more obvious. Something comes into our lives and we lose something, we fail, we stumble, something painful comes in, something unwanted. And then the grip, the closure, the tight fist of resistance is more obvious. We attempt to reject it or somehow fix it, get over it, run away from it. But also in this is the invitation of openness. In both circumstances, in both experiences, the possibility of openness is right here. It's right here when we see, when we sense, when we recognize the tight fist, the resistance. When we see, when we feel the horror of the tight fist in our experience, right there is the possibility of relaxing that tight fist, of surrendering the tight fist, of meeting without resistance what is here. But this is huge, because meeting without resistance what is here is falling into the unknown. Openness is unknown. It's unknown because it pulls the rug out from our agendas, our expectations. When we attempt to resist our experience or attempt to hold on to our experience, there's an agenda. There's an expectation. It's either the agenda of getting rid of it or the agenda of possessing it, not losing it. Both of those have resistance in them, and resistance is the root of suffering. If we really want the end of suffering, then every vestige of resistance to our experience, whether it's hell or heaven, must be surrendered. And in that surrender, there's a falling. There's a falling, not knowing where we might land. And this creates vulnerability. The vulnerability of not knowing. The vulnerability of openness. But this vulnerability is the doorway to true freedom. True freedom is not a transcendent viewpoint. It's not a perspective. It's not a non-dual view. True freedom is much more than that. It's a tenderness towards our experience. The end of resistance towards our experience. The end of the argument with our experience. St. John of the Cross said, take my lofty spiritual ideas and plunge them into darkness and then burn them. Let me love only you, beloved. Let me, with unutterable simplicity, only love you. That's the end of the idea that we need to transcend our thoughts, our feelings, and gain a perspective from the Absolute so that we can rise above our human experience and no longer feel pain. But this attempt to transcend is an attempt to deny the beloved that is present in our humanity, in our human experience. The beloved is the open hand of love. In the open hand of love, there is no resistance. This open hand, this love, has no beginning, no end. It is not contained. It is not conditional. It is simply, or the simplicity of the deepest acceptance of what is here. This stops the human experience being one of me trying to get something from life in order to make me happy or comfortable. It stops the human experience being about me trying to fight life or push away life so that I can stay safe and comfortable. It stops the me and life happening to me. And it either happens according to my wishes, my expectations, my dreams, my hopes, or it happens according to my fears, my nightmares, and my suffering. But when there's no longer resistance, there's no longer the tight fist, the grip of push and pull, then there's no longer a me and life. I and life are one. It's a mystical union of self and existence. And in that, there is nothing more to fear. You no longer fear your experience because it's not outside of you, happening to you. It's It's no longer that which tortures you. It is simply love in disguise. It's love in disguise because it offers you the invitation to openness within that experience, in the midst of that experience. So the invitation is to become sensitive, to become highly attuned to where this subtle grip, this subtle tightening, either holding on for dear life, pushing away, to notice. And in that moment you have a choice. It's a choice that doesn't come from the mind. It's a choice that comes from the tenderness of the heart. It's a turning towards the tenderness of the heart. In turning towards that, there is a surrender of ego mind's grip on reality. The tenderness of the heart doesn't attempt to do anything with its experience. It simply is with the experience. It is intimate with the experience. It is close to the experience. And in that intimacy and that closeness, you come closer to yourself, your true self. And your true self is openness. Your very nature in its innermost is openness. Everything else is a cover-up. That cover-up is what makes life burdensome. That cover-up is what makes life a struggle. You notice the places where you do not turn towards tenderness. In the very experience of your life, don't look for it in some myth of spirituality. Look for it in your life. Life is your spiritual teacher. It's the only true teacher there is. In your life, in your relationships, in your work relationships, in your relationship to your work, in your relationship to your purpose, in your relationship to your partner, to your friends, to your children. In every relationship, in the relationship to your body, to your well-being, to your health. In every relationship, your relationship to the world. In every relationship is your teacher. In every relationship, you either operate as the tight fist of resistance. And it's a struggle. It's a burden. It's a nightmare. That's the place where the beloved lives. That's the place where the invitation of openness, the invitation of surrender, the invitation of tenderness is right there. So look to your life for the doorway to freedom.